Imagine walking into a local fish market on a hot summer day. You expect to see tuna, snapper, maybe a shark or two. But instead, you see a dinosaur lying on the ice. Not a bone, not a fossil, but a living, breathing creature that science swore had been dead for 66 million years. It sounds like the opening scene of a Hollywood thriller, but in 1938, this became a reality that shattered our understanding of extinction. Welcome to the world of Lazarus taxa. In paleontology, a Lazarus taxon is a species that disappears from the fossil record, is presumed extinct for eons, and then suddenly reappears, alive, in the modern era. It is the ultimate biological magic trick. Today, we are descending into the deep-sea iceberg of creatures we thought were gone forever. We are going to explore the biological time capsules that survived the asteroid that killed the T-Rex, investigate the phantom bottoms of the ocean that fooled World War II sonar, and ask the terrifying question: if a 5-foot fish can hide from us for millions of years, what else is lurking in the crushing darkness of the abyss? Hey everyone, and welcome back to Beast Lore. I've been taking a much more investigator-focused approach to our marine biology deep dives lately, and the data we are uncovering is frankly unsettling. The ocean covers 71% of our planet, yet we have mapped the surface of Mars with greater resolution than our own ocean floor. Today, we are using the iceberg format to structure this investigation. We will start at the surface, Layer 1, with the creature that started it all, the coelacanth. As we descend, we'll move through the twilight zone to separate the myths of the kraken from the biological reality of the giant squid. We'll look at the living fossils of the goblin shark, and then hit Layer 4, a critical zone known as the sound-scattering layer, or the false bottom, where billions of tons of biomass hide every single day. Finally, we'll hit the bottom to tackle the megalodon and the anomalies that science can't quite explain. The line between extinct and undiscovered is much thinner than you think. Let's dive in. Layer 1. The proof, the coelacanth. To understand the Lazarus effect, we have to start with the gold standard, the coelacanth. For over a century, these were considered the index fossils of geology. If a geologist found a coelacanth fossil in a rock layer, they knew immediately that the rock was at least 66 million years old. Science was absolute in its certainty. These fish died alongside the dinosaurs. But on December 22, 1938, that certainty evaporated. Marjorie Courtenay-Latimer, a museum curator in South Africa, received a call to check a trawler's catch at the docks. It was a hot day, and amidst a pile of sharks and rays, she spotted a fin. She described it as the most beautiful fish I had ever seen. 5 feet long, with iridescent blue scales and fins that looked disturbingly like legs. She fought to save it. She wrapped it in newspaper, shoved it into a taxi, and desperately tried to preserve it in the summer heat. When she couldn't identify it, she sent a sketch to ichthyologist J.L.B. Smith. His reaction is now legendary. He famously said, "I would not have been more surprised if I had seen a dinosaur walking down the street." He wired back a frantic telegram. Most important, preserved skeleton and gills. So how did a 5-foot monster hide for 66 million years? The investigation reveals that the coelacanth is a master of niche survival. They don't live in the open ocean. They inhabit steep, underwater volcanic slopes and caves at depths of roughly 700 meters. This is a nightmare zone for trawling nets, which get snagged on the jagged rocks. Biologically, they are a window into the past. They possess a rostral organ in their snout, an electrosensory system used to detect prey in the dark. Even more bizarre, they have an intracranial joint, a hinge in their skull that allows them to swing their head upward to open their mouth incredibly wide. They found a habitat so stable and remote that evolution essentially hit the pause button. The coelacanth proves a terrifying point. We assume we know what lives in our oceans, but if we don't look in the right caves, we miss entire lineages of life. Layer 2. Myth to reality, the giant squid. As we descend to Layer 2, we move from the fossil record to maritime folklore. For 2,000 years, sailors returned to port with stories of the kraken, a many-armed sea monster capable of dragging ships to the doom. For centuries, the scientific community dismissed these as rum-soaked hallucinations or misidentified masses of seaweed. But the ocean has a way of washing the truth up on our shores. In 1861, the French corvette Electon encountered a massive squid at the surface and even tried to haul it aboard, securing a piece of the tail. Throughout the 20th century, we found sucker scars the size of dinner plates on the heads of sperm whales. We knew something was down there fighting the largest predators on Earth. We called it Architeuthis dux, the giant squid. The problem was, we couldn't find a living one. For decades, expeditions spent millions of dollars dragging cameras through the deep, blasting the water with high-intensity floodlights and noisy thrusters. They found nothing. Why? Because the giant squid has the largest eye in the animal kingdom, the size of a basketball. It is evolved to detect the faintest glimmer of bioluminescence. Our noisy, bright machines were scaring them away long before we could see them. It wasn't until 2012 that marine biologist Edith Witter changed the game. She theorized that we needed to be stealthy. She built a camera platform called the Medusa that used invisible red light, which deep-sea creatures can't see, and no motors. She mimicked the bioluminescent distress call of a jellyfish, and it worked. A 30-foot giant squid emerged from the darkness, dancing with the camera. This layer teaches us a crucial lesson for our investigation. The monsters are there. We just have to learn how to look for them without blinding them first. Layer 3. Living fossils, frilled and goblin sharks. Pressing deeper into the dark, we reach Layer 3, home to the creatures that evolution forgot to update. Here we find the frilled shark and the goblin shark, animals that look less like fish and more like mistakes. Let's look at the frilled shark first. If you saw this in the water, you wouldn't call it a shark. You'd call it a sea serpent. It has a long eel-like body and rows of frilled gills that look like slashed throat openings. Inside its mouth are 300 needle-sharp, trident-shaped teeth designed to snag soft-bodied prey like squid. But the most Lazarus quality of the shark is its reproduction. The frilled shark has a gestation period of up to 3.5 years. That is the longest of any vertebrate animal on Earth. Longer than an elephant, longer than a whale. In the freezing, high-pressure environment of the deep, metabolic processes slow to a crawl. This creature is living life in slow motion, remaining virtually unchanged for 80 million years. Then we have the goblin shark, the sole survivor of the family Mitsucarinidae, a lineage roughly 125 million years old. Its most terrifying feature is its slingshot jaws. The goblin shark's jaws are not fused to its skull. When it senses the electrical field of a fish, it can project its entire mouth forward at 3.1 meters per second, the fastest jaw movement of any shark. These creatures aren't monsters in the theatrical sense. They are highly specialized biological machines that solve the problem of survival long before humans walked the Earth. Layer 4. The false bottom, the Bermuda blob and sound scattering layer. Now we reach Layer 4, and this is where the investigation gets truly mysterious. We need to talk about the false bottom and the strange organic masses that occasionally wash ashore. Cryptozoology enthusiasts often point to globsters, unidentified organic masses found on beaches, as proof of unknown giant octopuses. The most famous was the Bermuda blob of 1988 and another in 1995. These were tough, fibrous, white masses that defied easy explanation. Was it a new species? A giant deep-sea sponge? DNA analysis eventually revealed the disappointing truth. They were the decomposed collagen matrices of whale blubber, essentially the skeleton of the fat from a dead whale. But while the Bermuda blob was debunked, the sound scattering layer, SSL, is very real and far more significant. During World War II, sonar operators hunting German U-boats noticed something terrifying. Their sonar would ping off a solid seafloor at 300 meters, but their maps said the bottom was thousands of meters down. Even stranger, this false bottom moved. It rose to the surface at night and sank back down at sunrise. We now know this is the Deal vertical migration, the largest migration of animals on the planet, happening every single day. It is a dense wall of fish, krill, jellyfish, and squid numbering in the billions of tons. It is so dense it reflects sound waves. Here is the investigator's take. We know what makes up most of the layer, but we don't know what hunts inside it. This moving wall of darkness provides the perfect cover for large predators to move vertically through the water column without ever being seen. If a massive unknown predator exists, it wouldn't be out in the open blue. It would be hiding inside this shifting cloud of biomass, feasting on the buffet. Layer 5. The reality check, megalodon and deep-sea anomalies. This brings us to the bottom of the iceberg. Layer 5. The question that floods my comment section every week: is the megalodon down there? If the coelacanth could hide, why not the meg? We have to apply our rigorous reality check here. The coelacanth is a slow metabolism lurker. The megalodon was a massive active super predator that needed huge amounts of caloric energy. It thrived in warm coastal waters, feeding on small whales. The bottom of the ocean is a food desert. It is freezing and sparsely populated. A warm water predator like the megalodon simply couldn't survive the thermodynamics of the abyss. Furthermore, we now have eDNA, environmental DNA. We can scoop up a cup of seawater and sequence the DNA of everything that swam through it recently. We have found the genetic signatures of elusive beaked whales and rare sharks, but we have never found a single trace of Otodus megalodon DNA. However, and this is a big however, the absence of the megalodon does not mean the absence of giants. In just the last 2 decades, we have identified the Omura's whale and Kurob's beaked whale, large mammals that were totally unknown to science. The Lazarus effect tells us that the ocean is excellent at keeping secrets. We might not find a megalodon, but we are almost certainly going to find something else. The ocean is the last great frontier. We have explored less than 5% of it. The coelacanth taught us that extinct is often just a word for hidden. The giant squid taught us that our technology can be our own worst enemy. And the sound scattering layer reminds us that billions of tons of life are moving beneath our feet, largely unobserved. So I want to hear from you. The Bermuda blob was just whale blubber, but what do you think is actually hiding in the sound scattering layer? Is there a cephalopod bigger than the giant squid? Or a remnant of the Jurassic period waiting for the right sonar ping? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Lazarus iceberg, hit that like button and subscribe to Beast Lore. We have a lot of ocean left to explore. I'll see you in the deep.